The Barn Quilt Trail really captured my imagination. My friend Jean lives here where we're standing, and this is her barn quilt. And just about a little over a year ago, I like to ride my bike, and I ride all over the valley. And I rode past Jean's house, and I didn't know anything about the barn quilts or what it was or anything. And I saw this on her barn, and I was so taken by it. So I called her immediately, and I told her how much I liked it. And she said, well, do you want to help paint them? And so I went to the studio, and that was the start. I was hooked.
As an early barn quilt owner, I was also unemployed and looking for something to volunteer for and be a part of. And I'm creative, and I love anything involving paint or anything like that. And I think the other painters also enjoy it because it's kind of a social thing. There's about 4 of us that are always there. We just show up like it's a job, like twice a week, and if it takes 5 hours a day, that's fine. But we've gotten really close. Yeah.
So we've been hanging barn quilts on really old barns like this one that's over 100 years old, but we've also hung them on new barns and old barns that have been turned into party rooms and old barns that have been turned into homes, and even buildings that aren't barns at all, like the Kittitas County Historical Museum.
This started in southern Ohio with a woman called Donna Sue Groves and her mother. Her mother was a quilter, very well known in the area, and they owned a little farm with a tobacco barn on it, and just right on the edge of the Appalachian Mountains, in a very rural area. And her mother wanted a painted quilt block put on the barn. So Donna Sue Groves, who was pretty artistic, said she'd make it for her. And so she painted it, hung it on the barn, and then the neighbors wanted one. So Donna Sue helped them paint one for their barn, and then another neighbor wanted one. And so by the end of that first year, she had 20 neighbors on this little windy rural road in southern Ohio with quilt blocks. Eventually, within a couple years, there were like 5 counties all around her that had barn quilt trails. And it snowballed into this, what they call the American Barn Quilt Trail movement. From that very first year of 20 barn quilts, it has now spread to over 5,000 barn quilts across the country. So in 2012, my husband and I thought this would be something that would really work well in Kittitas County. I had seen an image of a barn quilt on a barn in Iowa on the internet, and researched it and found out it's not just about painted quilt blocks on barns, but it's about the heritage of the farming community. It's about the story of how that family homesteaded that area, how the barn is built, all the things the barn has witnessed. I mean, on the East Coast, these barns have witnessed, some of them, the Civil War. That's how old they are. We came on board. We were the 34th state to get a barn quilt trail. And at that time, there were 4,000 barn quilts up across the country. And this is considered the largest grassroots art project in our nation's history.
My name is Mary Pittis, and my husband Doug and I own the Iron Horse Inn Bed and Breakfast here in South Cle Elum. And we're also part of the South Cle Elum Rail Yard National Historic District, which was all of the Milwaukee Railroad properties here in South Cle Elum. It makes me proud that we have this historic property that's being recognized and represented on the Barn Quilt Trail. It means a lot that the quilt block itself is called Railroad Crossing, because this is so appropriate for this National Historic District connected with the South Cle Elum Rail Yard that was the Milwaukee Railroad.
Hi, I am Darlene Grant at Yakima River RV Park on Four Seasons Ranch in Ellensburg, just south of the city. The barn quilt that we chose is a star pattern with a rail fence incorporated into it, with the colors of the sky and the river and the sun and the sunsets, the sunrises. It's what we are known for out here, and a lot of our customers come from the west side for the sunshine. In the corners we painted our brand on there, which is 4 with a lazy S for Four Seasons Ranch. Randy's sister had made us a cross-stitch thing for our wedding, and this was actually on there. Just a little different in color placement with lights and darks, but I looked at it one day and I thought, yeah, that's exactly what I need. The guests that we have come from all over the world. They've been from Holland, Switzerland, Saudi Arabia, Germany, England, Canada, of course.
My name is Katie Galley-Kladnick, and I was born and raised on this farm. My parents came from Italy, and they purchased this farm in 1922. And their name was Frank and Regina Dolly. They eventually started a small dairy, and we had a grocery store. My mom raised chickens, and we sold eggs. And we just grew up here. It was a nice place to grow up. And there were 7 of us in our family, so we had a crowd. My niece Debbie Odaga, who passed away in December 8th, talked about putting up a barn quilt. And when she passed away, then we, the family, the cousins, and my sister and I decided to put up this barn quilt. And we put the barn quilt has the cows because of the dairy. There are sheep and grapes for my niece Debbie and her husband, and of course the Italian colors. So this is in memory of my parents, Debbie and Mike. My folks used to make wine. I'm not a wine drinker though. No, I never liked it.
The stream of quilting that came to the U.S. came from England and Wales, and that came, of course, across with the first settlers. I see this quilt as a connection to another woman in the past, and I feel like that it's a continuation of that woman. She may be gone now, but I can touch and I can see what she was thinking about. The symbolism on the quilt is almost like a message. It's that connection to the woman in the past, to the people of the past, to how they lived, and not to big history, but to everyday history.
Barn quilts were really important for us because we wanted the message to be about agritourism, agricultural and families, and then the barns were just a way that we could place some beautiful display blocks for people to see from the roads. We wanted people to celebrate what the families had brought to the land for many years. So Jacky Fausset and Gary Fausset came to the Chamber of Commerce. We had a tourism meeting. It was probably about 3 to 4 years ago, and she came up with this plan to put display blocks on agricultural barns. At first it wasn't received very well, but the tourism committee decided to take the leap of faith, and we were able to give them some financing to start.
Debbie wanted sheep, so we just kind of incorporated everything together. So when you look at it, it really looks pretty with the grapes, and you don't see it as good from far away, like the grapes, but looking at it from here, it is pretty, and it's special. It's special to us and to the family.